3.2.7 and 3.2.8 are actually very similar. 3.2.8 asks you to show that you can apply spacing above and below paragraphs and apply different kinds of line spacing. 3.2.7 is about you understanding why that is good practice, why that's the best way to arrange documents on a page, paragraphs on a page rather. If we look first of all at how we do it, so 3.2.8, how do we apply spacing above and below and then set line spacing? Here I've got two paragraphs and it's actually quite hard to see where the paragraphs begin and end. My cursor is flashing at the beginning of the second paragraph, but because there's not actually a space here, it's quite hard visually to see where that paragraph starts. Now, if you're like most people, you'd simply press the Enter key to create a space. That's not the best practice. It is what most people do, but that doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. The fact is then you are limited in terms of how this size, this gap is. So if you want to make things look a little bit closer or even further apart, you have to go and change the font sizes, and then you've got to be very consistent all the way through. The fact is you've got to press a key twice. Now, I'm lazy, that's why I went into computers. If I can get away with pressing a key once rather than twice, I've cut my workload by 50%, which is quite a massive amount when you add it up. So looking at this, and people forget to press the space bar, forget to press the Enter key to create the space between paragraphs, it can make the document look inconsistent. So the best thing to do is actually set up your spacing for your company. So in here, I'll just take that out and I'll show you how it's going to work. So we want to do something to this paragraph. So I've highlighted the paragraph, and because it's page layout, we might consider it being on the page layout tab, but it's also about paragraphs, and that common element is on the paragraph toolbar here as well. Now, there isn't anything here on before and after spacing. You've got this thing, which is line spacing, which says add space before the paragraph, add the space after the paragraph, and your various different line spacing options. But it doesn't give you full control. So you'd have to go to the line spacing options, and that brings up this paragraph toolbar menu. Now, I said about page layout, you can get to the same thing exactly the same way by going to page layout. It's a paragraph section here, but you've got the before and after spacing as one of the common tools. The little trapdoor here brings you back to this as well. So if I go through this one, to add a before spacing, and these go up in sixes, so one click takes it to 6, we can then click on OK. And what that's done is put a little space in between there, and you can see how that's a little bit tidier space than the one you had if you just press the Enter key. Of course, you can make it larger, smaller, and I think you can actually type in the number you actually want. So you can see if you want to give it a very, very subtle change, you can make it a very small amount. The advantage of that is if I press the Enter key now and start typing, you see how I press the Enter key once and I'm getting the space automatically put in, which is saving me pressing the key twice. Now that's the before and after spacing. What about line spacing? Quite often when you're asked to hand in work for assessment, you'll be asked to put it in double line spacing. This is so that somebody who's marking it has got room to write comments and around on it. So we still go to our paragraph trapdoor and look for the line spacing. Here's our line spacing, single, 1.5 lines. And you see it gives a slightly wider format, 1.5 gaps between each line. This is done quite often in essay writing so that you can have room for the professor or assessor to go in and write little comments on your work.